Hi, welcome to this episode of Gov School Rocks, where we learn to speak rock and where we listen to the environment to see what it has to tell us about its story. Today we're going to look at metamorphic rocks, which at first glance you may ask, in an environmental science class, why do I care about metamorphic rocks? Well, because ultimately they're a part of the rock cycle, and the rock cycle is really critical for how we recycle the CHNOPS elements back into the environment and for some of our important natural resources. So, for instance, this metamorphic rock is an amphibolite. So it's an amphibolite because it's rich in the mineral amphibole. If you look really closely, you'll see a reddish mineral in there. That reddish mineral is garnet. Garnet, the January birthstone, is also referred to by the mineral name almandine. And it's a pretty hard mineral. But this mineral here is really important for as an element of that's put into glass for say glasses. It's also a very important abrasive. So of course this is from Gore Mountain in upstate New York, great skiing area by the way. And the garnets here from Gore Mountain have been used as abrasives and mined there as abrasives for many decades. Mining takes a toll on the environment. So you can think about this as a negative environmental impact, or at least an environmental impact that maybe you don't want to think about too much, but it is important to take into mind because mining has many secondary, tertiary, and quaternary effects for the environment around it, including the ecosystems and biosphere. But this particular metamorphic rock is only partially metamorphic in a sense. These other ones, for instance, I have a piece of gneiss. If you look really closely, you can see the banding in here. It's actually a very schistose gneiss. It's a sort of a boundary between gneiss and schist. And that's normal because metamorphic rocks have different grades. Metamorphism happens in three ways. You subject any rock, even another metamorphic rock, to heat, pressure, or hydrothermal fluids. It can be a combination of those things as well. The bottom line is that you don't melt the minerals, but you alter the rock. What happens in metamorphism is that you'll sometimes have new minerals that form. We call those metamorphic accessory minerals. Also can be referred to as index minerals if they're indicative of particular pressures and temperatures, and sometimes they are. So that can get a whole lot more detailed, but for now, it's important to note that these garnets, for instance, are a good index mineral. They tell us something about the pressure and temperature of this rock and its formation. Likewise, in this particular schist, which is a much more traditional schist, if you look closely, you see little garnets in that, and those garnets again are indicative of the environment in which this rock formed. You can also see them in cross-section if you look very closely. The lighting may be difficult to see, but you can see little dots in that cut section of that. So metamorphic rocks come in two varieties, foliated and non-foliated. All the rocks that I have here happen to be foliated. You can see foliations, what we refer to them as foliations. They look like layers. This rock, you can see some foliations. If you look closely in the cut section, you can see places where the minerals where the layers kind of going around other mineral bits, little bits of almandine or garnet in this case again. Got a lot of garnet schist here. This particular schist actually comes from Mount Washington in New Hampshire. I'm having thinking issues here. So it's very shiny. So the mica that's in here that makes up the schist really reflects light very well. But you can see the foliations. If you look closely, you can see how the rock has a bit of a sort of layered effect to it, and that's foliation. So the minerals can be reoriented. The minerals are going to generally go with like minerals to form that banding that we so characteristically associate with gneisses, for instance, which is typically a pure gneiss is formed from a granite, so the minerals tend to be a little larger. The pore space is reduced in metamorphic rocks or eliminated altogether, and the crystals are sort of rearranged to be much more tightly packed than they were. And this makes metamorphic rocks really pretty useful for a lot of things, including abrasives, but make good tombstones because they last a long time. Also it can be very hard to, like quartzite, which is a non-foliated metamorphic rock, or marble. Marble tends to be very soft, and subjected, and the environment can actually alter it. And we'll look at that more in a few weeks with the juniors as we think about weathering in cemeteries. But bottom line is metamorphic rocks are formed through heat, pressure, or hydrothermal fluids without melting the rock. Because once you melt it, you become igneous. Okay? And any rock can become metamorphic. But these rocks tend to form at different tectonic situations, sometimes at the surface where you only have heat involved perhaps, sometimes at depth where you both have both heat and pressure or just pressure. So any number of these different agents of metamorphism can be at work in a particular rock, and that tells us something about its facies or its environment of formation, which is really important. Okay, so that's metamorphic rocks. Our next topic is going to look at sedimentary rocks, and that's really where a lot of our action is going to happen here in environmental science. All right, till next time. See you later.